I do like a man in uniform. Rachel Walker walked into the dimly lit police station, a picture of worry and frustration. In one hand, she held a large bag of groceries. Behind the counter sat a policeman. His name badge read PC-31. Very nice indeed, he thought, a grin spreading across his face. Can I help you? He asked, his tone professional. Rachel's voice was steady, despite her troubled expression. I'd like to report a stolen bicycle, she said, her words crisp and to the point. I see, said PC-31, already reaching for a clipboard on the counter. I'll need your name and address and a description of the bicycle. Also, can you fill out this form? He pushed the clipboard toward her. I'll be back in a minute. Rachel nodded and filled out the form with the determination of a student taking a test. As she waited for the officer to return, her eyes wandered to a wall filled with wanted posters. Each poster featured a photo of a person and a list of their crimes. Her eyes stopped on one particular poster. Her heart missed a beat. That looks just like Harry, she whispered, referring to her husband's friend. Harry, a bank robber? Surely not. He didn't even have the energy to return a library book on time. When the policeman returned, he looked at Rachel curiously. You all right? You look like you've just seen a ghost. Oh, sorry, I was lost in thought, she replied, as casually as she could, which wasn't very casual at all. PC-31 took the form from Rachel's hand, glancing over the neat handwriting. You didn't fill in a phone number, he remarked, pointing to the blank space with his pen. Rachel tilted her head, a playful look in her eyes. I've forgotten it, she said. Can I borrow yours? She leaned in just a little, her lips curving into a smile before turning to leave. Her steps were slow and deliberate, as though she knew she had the young officer's full attention. As she pushed open the heavy door, she thought to herself, I do like a man in uniform. PC-31 watched her go, his eyes lingering on the door long after she had disappeared. Very nice indeed, he thought, shaking his head with a bemused grin before returning to his paperwork. That evening, Rachel sat in the kitchen, staring at the wall. She couldn't forget the image of the wanted poster. The man had Harry's sharp cheekbones and unmistakably dark eyes. Could it really be him? The next morning, Rachel decided She had to protect her husband from Harry. She returned to the police station, trying to seem calm, but failing miserably. I came here yesterday to report my stolen bicycle, she began. I remember, said the officer, whose name badge read PC-31. I'm like an elephant. I never forget a face or a name. Well, Rachel hesitated, her eyes darting to the wall behind PC-31. While I was here, I noticed something else. PC-31 raised an eyebrow. His curiosity piqued. What was it? Rachel took a deep breath, her voice dropping to a whisper. A face on a wanted poster. One of the men looked just like my husband's friend, Harry. Oh, you're married? PC-31 replied. His tone neutral, but his expression was one of disappointment. The comment caught Rachel off guard. Yes, unfortunately. I mean, yes I am, she stammered, her cheeks flushing slightly. Rachel reached into her bag and pulled out a photograph of Harry and her husband Joe standing outside a chip shop. The greasy sign in the background read, Best fish and chips in town, though the faded paint suggested otherwise. She handed the photo to PC-31, who studied it carefully, comparing it to the wanted poster on the wall. They do look similar, don't they? He said, nodding slowly. And the other man is your husband, I take it. All right, I need to check this with my superiors. PC-31 took the photo and disappeared into another room, leaving Rachel alone at the counter. She tapped her fingers nervously, the rhythm echoing in the quiet station. Her thoughts wandered briefly to PC-31's uniform. Crisp, clean, and oddly charming. I do like a man in uniform, she thought. After what felt like forever, PC-31 returned, his face lit up with a reassuring smile. Good news, he said. You have nothing to worry about. Your husband's friend is not the man on the poster. Rachel felt a wave of relief wash over her. Are you sure? She asked, her voice sounding doubtful. Absolutely, PC-31 replied. Rachel laughed. Oh, I feel foolish. I'm sorry for wasting your time. No need to apologize, PC-31 said, his tone warm. You've made my day a little more interesting. And by the way, I'd remember a face like yours if it were on a poster. Rachel laughed, her embarrassment melting away. That's because you're like an elephant. Rachel turned to leave. She looked back over her shoulder. Maybe I'll see you again, officer, she said, her voice playful. PC-31 watched her go, his pen twirling idly in his fingers. Very nice indeed, he thought, a grin spreading across his face. That night, Rachel was in the kitchen reading her favorite magazine when the doorbell rang. It was an odd hour for visitors, and Rachel frowned. Who could that be? She mumbled to herself as she set her magazine aside. I'll get it, she called out to Joe, who was in the living room with Harry, watching a documentary about penguins. She opened the door to find a tall, serious-looking police officer standing on her front step. A police car was parked outside, flashing its lights. What will the neighbors think? She thought. Good evening, the officer said, tipping his hat. Are you Rachel? Yes, that's me, Rachel replied. Was this about her bicycle? Before she could ask, the officer stepped aside, revealing several plainclothes officers behind him. They moved quickly, without so much as a "May we come in?" They brushed past Rachel and entered her home. Wait a minute, what's going on? Rachel asked, flustered. The officers didn't respond, which Rachel thought was very rude. She followed them into the living room, where Joe and Harry were still on the couch, mid-discussion about whether a penguin would taste like chicken or fish. They both froze when the officers entered. You are both under arrest, one of the officers announced. What? Rachel shrieked. Before Joe or Harry could react, the officers quickly restrained them. Joe looked confused. Harry looked calm, as though being arrested was just another Tuesday night for him. Rachel stood in the middle of the chaos, her heart pounding. She turned to one of the officers, desperate for answers. What are you arresting them for? They're wanted in connection to a series of bank robberies, one of the officers explained, his tone casual, as though he were commenting on the weather. Joe, bank robberies? That can't be right, Rachel said, her voice rising in disbelief. We have evidence linking them to the crimes, the officer replied simply. Rachel's jaw dropped. She looked at Joe, who was now staring at the floor. Joe, tell them this isn't true, she pleaded, her voice cracking. Joe didn't respond. He looked at her briefly, his eyes filled with sadness, and was that guilt? Meanwhile, Harry seemed completely unbothered, as though he were being inconvenienced by the late arrival of a train. Rachel couldn't believe her eyes. Her world was turning upside down, faster than she could think. As the officers led Joe and Harry out of the house, Rachel stood frozen in the living room. She thought she knew the people closest to her, but now she wasn't so sure. Rachel was left standing in her kitchen, staring into space. She didn't know what to do or how to feel. So she did the only thing that made sense in that moment. She boiled water and made herself a cup of tea.